So what is the outcome of using productivity tools? Do they make a difference? Yes, they do. They make your productivity journey and your life easier, smoother. They clear the space in your brain. Like what David Allen says, your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. And trust me, by doing that, by clearing that space in your mind, you'll feel more creative, you'll feel less stressed. Again, having the right tools can support you in doing and achieving something anytime, anywhere. Think about it. It's like you're the CEO and having the right tool is your assistant that reminds you about everything that you need to do when and where. And finally, I think productivity tools is like having a car after you learned how to drive. So if you want to learn about driving, then I'm assuming that you either have a car or you plan to have a car, right? Otherwise, it's useless to learn how to drive. Same with productivity. If you want to be more productive, if you're thinking about having your productivity habit installed, then trust me, you will need to have a tool. The misunderstanding here is that some people rely on their mind to be that tool. So they rely on their mind to take notes with it, to process them with it, to organize these notes with their minds, and to rely on their minds to remind them about when and where to do them, which is not the function of their mind. That's why many tasks and actions slip through the cracks, and over time they get to be frustrated and give up on their productivity journey. Moving to the cost. So from my experience, 99% of the time, productivity tools will be free to use. Very few of them will be with affordable cost, and very few of them will be expensive. The rule of the thumb here is there's always an alternative. So if you stumble across an expensive tool, for example, trust me, if you spend more time searching, you will find another alternative which is free to use. So how about usage? There are 3 points to consider. So in the complexity, some of the tools will be simple to use, the other ones will be complicated to use. I recommend using the simple ones. Regarding speed, some of the tools will be fast, some of the tools will be slow. My recommendations is to follow the fast ones. Note that I'm talking here about the tool, I'm not talking about the phone. So sometimes you can have the fast app installed on a slow phone. Finally, some of the tools will have basic functions and some of the tools will have advanced functions. Here, I'm not recommending one of the other. This is something totally up to you if you want to choose the basic feature or the advanced one. To give you a quick example for that. So let's talk about sticky notes. So there will be basic tools about sticky notes where you click on them, it opens a sticky note, you insert the note, and you save it. That's it. And there are some of the sticky notes tools or apps that they have more advanced options. So instead of just opening the same note to insert notes in it, you get to choose the colors of the note, you get to choose the font of the note, you can insert an image, you can insert an audio, you can insert a sketch or something like that. Again, this is totally up to you. If you prefer the basic one, then by all means do it. If you prefer the advanced one, then you can also choose it. So what about criteria of choosing an app? Again, this is the general criteria. You can add or remove something as per your personality. I think I covered the major points here, but again, maybe I forgot something, right? And note that this is the general criteria of choosing an app. There will be a specific criteria when we get to the productivity toolkits, right? So with each toolkit with each area, there will be specific criteria as per each toolkit, right? This is just the general criteria I'm talking about. So it has to be user-friendly, which means fast, flexible, and easy to use. Any tool should have shortcuts because it saves time. Any tool should be accessible and portable through all the devices you have because it allows you to be productive anywhere, anytime. It should have a sharing function. And finally, it should have a backup feature. So you can take a backup either through the cloud or electronically through another device or physically by printing them. And this leads us to the checklist you can use before choosing any tool. You have to start with the purpose of the tool itself, right? So we covered the purpose of being productive. Now, when it comes to choosing a tool, you need to have the reason of choosing that tool first. Then you will search for the general criteria we discussed below. And then you will search for the specific criteria I mentioned that we will cover in the future videos for each tool. To give you an example to clarify that, so let's say you're looking for a to-do list manager tool or app, right? So what is the purpose of choosing this tool? This is my answer, by the way, so you can add yours. I need to be able to identify tasks. I need to be able to see the right time for it and to see the right context for it. So when I say this gives me an idea of the tool, or this gives me a guidelines to the things I need to have in the tool, right? So identify tasks, this is no problem. But when it comes to time and context, what I mean here is that I want an app that can let me see or can let me add a specific time to a task and can give me the right context, either by having a list named after that context, or maybe having an option. Where do you want to do this task? So I will insert the right context, like at home or at office or at laptop or at phone, etc. Then moving to the general criteria, that to-do list should be user-friendly, fast, flexible, easy to use. It should have shortcuts. It should be accessible and portable. It should be having a sharing function. I can back up these informations. God forbid, if something happens to the app or the phone and it blow up or malfunction, then I should have a backup regularly so I can use it on the other phone when I have a new one or something. Then moving to the specific criteria, which is again will be discussed in the to-do list manager toolkit itself. What we will discuss then is that a to-do list for me needs to be neat, which means automatically delete the completed tasks. This for me gives me the neat look on the app, which is less stressful for me. Also, I need to have the ability to create folders. I need to have the ability to assign dates to each task. Again, this is something from the purpose itself, right? When I said I need to see the time and context appropriate for each task. So I mean that I need to see or add time to each task, so it should be visible to me when its due date is, right? Same applies with the context. But for majority of reasons, the context can be identified in the folder or the file itself. So you can have a file which called at home, and then you add the appropriate tasks to it, and you insert the time in those tasks. So now I have the context, which is the file itself, or the file name, or the folder name, and I have the time attached to the tasks. Finally, I should have the ability to sync with the calendar. Again, this is something to do with the dates. Some of the apps I found doesn't sync with the calendar, so I need to see the time in the app itself. Some tools, like the one I'm using for to-do list, have the ability to sync with the calendar. So whenever I open the calendar, I also see the things that I have to do today. So it's like a backup or like a second line defense, right? Actually, for the calendar, for me, it's a first line defense because it's the first thing I open to see how my day is going, what kind of meetings or how many meetings I have. And I also see the things that I have to complete in that day. The second line defense for me is the app itself, because when I open the app and I filter through the today things, I also see the things I need to complete. So I hope this example clarifies everything. And again, if you're following me in the next videos, we will talk about these 5 main areas. So journaling and note-taking, to-do list managers, time management tools, thinking and creativity tools, habit tracking tools. Again, this is my personal opinion that you should have an app or a tool that covers these 5 areas. So that was the end of the first basic session in the productivity tools course. Stay tuned for the other videos to come. And until we meet, keep upgrading.